Hello guys, today I'm going to show you how to make this music notes using our Tunisian Knit Stitch. So we are going to knit without knitting, which is always very fun. And for starters, we're going to chain 17. So since we're going to use the Tunisian Knit Stitch, we're going to work onto the back of the chains. So we turn our work, and if you see right here, like if you turn it to the side, you'll see like those little bumps like in between the chains, and we're going to insert our hook into those and create our stitches. Now the stitch that we have on our hook always counts as one, and we're going to skip that very first bump because it corresponds to this very first stitch. So going straight to the second bump, yarning over and pulling and keeping our stitches in our hook always. Also, always make sure to count your stitches, recount them, count them again, and then count them again because we are supposed to end up with 17 stitches, and I've done it before where I'm like, yeah, I think I got all 17, and no, I didn't, and now my work is all messed up and I need to go back and redo it, and it's painful. It's painful to just undo your work and have to do it again when you can always just simply count them 100 times before. Now that we have all of our 17 stitches in our hook, we're going to chain one onto that very last stitch. Chaining one, and then we're going to grab our yarn and pull through two of our stitches, and again pulling through two all the way down a row. This is our first row, so all rows consist of going forwards and then going backwards. Of course, this is our very first row and it's a solid color, so on our second row we're going to introduce our second color. So after having our first row, we're going to work onto our second row and we're going to insert our hook. If you turn your work, or if you flatten your stitches, you'll see that you have like this upside down U. You have our like top, I don't know what to call this, like our top, and then we have our stitch, and we're going to insert our hook in between like our top and just like our regular stitch. Insert our hook and pull, and we're going to start creating those bees, particularly created in knitting, and we're going to do this 3 times. Of course, always counting this last stitch in our hook that we always have as one stitch. So after our 3 stitches, we're going to introduce our very next color. So we get to introduce that black color, of course, just inserting our hook, yarning over and yarning over with our new color. It's just 1 stitch for this second row, and we're going to continue with our background yarn. 10 stitches, so 1, 10 stitches. And if there is one tip that I can give you, is that like the actual musical notes are a little bit separated, and by separated I mean that the black yarn, we can always carry this piece of yarn all the way down, but it would probably work better if you actually have a little piece of yarn or another black cake of yarn so that you can introduce it to our very next musical note. And this will only help if you're creating like a bigger tapestry or a bigger piece. I mean, it's just for you to have a better control of how your piece is coming along, and it doesn't create like warping or the tension is weird. Another thing is that whenever we come into our last row, always remember to catch those two pieces of yarn for our very last stitch. So insert in our hook, and as you can see, we have that piece covered, pulling our yarn, and there we have it. Now we're going to do our return pass. Of course, always chaining one always onto that last stitch, and always picking up the actual right piece of yarn. And now that we have those two stitches, since they're different color, we always use that second color. So if, for example, you have the example right here, if we have this white piece of yarn and then we have our second stitch, which is a different color, we always use that second color. So we yarn over, pull through two, and again, since we have that black piece of yarn, we continue. But now we have a white piece of yarn as our second color, so we switch our colors. And we continue to pulling through two all the way down until we of course reach a color change, always making sure you grab the correct or corresponding piece of yarn. Pulling through two, switching our colors, pulling, and there we have it. I know it's our second row, but you'll start to see how those bees, that knit stitch starts to form. And let's do one more row. So our pattern calls for two background colors and then 5 black colors or stitches. It's a little bit hard, but always pull through 2, 3. And there we have it. I know it doesn't look like much, but look how pretty the knit is coming along. I know it doesn't look like much, it actually doesn't look like anything, but now that you know the basics, if you pull through and you keep practicing, you'll have this beautiful swatch, and then you create it everywhere. Like I've done like swatches before, and now they're all over my wardrobe. They're my sweaters, they're my purses. It's so simple and easy to create like this knit stitch. I think it's easier than actually knitting. And of course, you can always go down below in the description and click on the link of the Pinterest pin that I'm following. And of course, you can always, take a screenshot of the knitting chart on screen. And yeah,